Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today it is, I don't know what day it is, I think it's Sunday. If not, then it's whatever day, and it's Vlogmas. I'm uploading every day in December until the 24th or the 25th of December, depending on when I want to put up a Christmas video or not. So yeah, if you are interested in that, make sure you subscribe. Today's video is a what if. I'm doing what if Richelle still had signs of snapping hip syndrome in season 6. And I'm basically doing this because I've said in numerous videos that I think there should have at least been a reference back to snapping hip syndrome in season 6 because it was such a big part of season 5. So the way that I've done this what if, I've actually based it on some like medical knowledge and terminology. I've actually been researching a lot into snapping hip syndrome and just like how long it takes to recover, the kind of things you need to do in order to recover and everything like that. First of all, what I think we need to do is work out what kind of snapping hip syndrome Richelle had and how long it probably would have taken her to recover. So if we refer back to the off season where Richelle is in hospital and Michelle and Emily visit her, the fact that she's still doing physio and she's still having to undergo treatment probably means that her snapping hip syndrome caused her pain to an amount where she had to go and get it looked at. It wasn't just like a wear and tear or an ache, you know, that kind of pain. I also think that Richelle would be very used to aches and pains. You know, the tricks that she does, it's likely that her muscles are going to hurt every time she dances. So I think she'd be very used to that. So if she was actually taking herself to a physio, I think it would be a lot more than that. She says in the off season she has a few weeks left of physio, which obviously implies that she has at least a month's worth.
Luckily, I only have a few weeks left of physio.
What a physio would usually do for snapping hip syndrome, based on the research I've done, is recommend strengthening exercises and also flexibility exercises. So she says that she's made a full recovery, but she still has at least 3 weeks of physio left.
I hope you guys know that I have made a full recovery and I'm coming back to the next step full force. I will never let you guys down. Great.
Now this could be true and she literally is just doing it to like finish the course of it. She could be signed off, but I think if the physio has already scheduled at least 3 more weeks, she's probably not made a full recovery. It's important that when you start exercising again, because it's a exercise person's injury, like it's very common in people that run, that dance, that do gymnastics and stuff like that. When you resume your exercise, you have to do it gradually. Like, don't just go straight into it and do a backflip, which I think Noah did after his back surgery or something. And they have to make sure they warm up and cool down properly. Also, it says that any jumping, leaping, that kind of stuff should be completely avoided for the first few weeks, just so your body can get used to it again. There are 2 different stages that I found of snapping hip syndrome. So the subacute stage is from 3 days to 3 weeks worth of like having the injury, and the chronic stage is 3 weeks to 2 years. And obviously, if she's taking the physio for at least 3 weeks, she's going to be in the more than 3 week stage, because we saw it early in season 5 all the way through to the off season. So Richelle is in the chronic stage of snapping hip syndrome. However, in that time, Michelle and Emily were fired, would have had to get brand new jobs. Daniel and Wes would have had to leave. The characters like Josh, Zara, I can't remember who else, Lola would have left. So they would have obviously carried out their time at TNS, then decided to leave, then told Kate that they wanted to leave, and then they would have left. But I'm gonna estimate it's around 2 to 3 months since she first had her symptoms. So basically, based on those time frames and the symptoms of snapping hip, and how you get relief from it and everything, I just really think it should have been mentioned in season 6, because she would be doing something to recover by then, even if like she is just taking it easy for the first class back. So this is what if Richelle still had snapping hip syndrome in season 6. So Richelle wouldn't have a duet in season 6 episode 3, she'd just be sat at the side cheering everyone on. Lily would also not have a duet because Miss Angela doesn't need to put her in a duet, she knows how she dances. So it'd be even more annoying when Angela says that Lily's going to be the one to do the duet at nationals or wherever it is, regionals.
Oh, Lily got the duet? Shocker.
And then she'd still pick Richelle because she's like, I saw you dance last season, you were amazing, you're going to be the perfect partner for Lily. So those two would still get partnered together.
I would like to see Richelle partner with Lily.
Everyone would be very confused because obviously neither of them auditioned, but it would just add to the fact that Lily was Miss Angela's favourite and Richelle kind of got on the wrong side of everyone at the beginning of season 6. Now Richelle being Richelle, she wouldn't turn down the chance to be in a featured duet at regionals, and she knows that by the time regionals comes around she'll probably be absolutely fine, she won't have any symptoms whatsoever, so she takes it, she doesn't deny it or say that she needs to ease into it, she's just like, yes, I need to make this great impression on Miss Angela, she doesn't really know me very well yet, so she just says, yes. And I also want to note Richelle wouldn't have told Angela anything about snapping hip, so like, because obviously it wasn't in the video either, you wouldn't have been able to tell. When Summer walks in on Richelle in the locker room, Richelle would be reading a sheet of stretches given to her by her physio. She'd be doing one of them, but she doesn't trust Summer yet, so she doesn't really want to say, oh, last season I had an injury and this is my recovery sheet. She just kind of puts it to one side and then just has the talk with Summer that she still does. When she rehearses the duet with Lily, she doesn't give it 100%, so she actually does use her brain and she takes it slow. But Lily would pick up on it and she'd be like, oh, you know, I'm such a better dancer than Richelle. And also Miss Angela would pick up on it because she's watching the duet, so she'd be like, Richelle, your leg needs to be a bit higher, it needs to match Lily's, your jumps need to be better. So Richelle doesn't want to make a bad impression, so she just keep going, and it feels absolutely fine. So Richelle's like, oh, okay, maybe I was just underestimating what I could do. I'm perfectly fine doing this. So she goes to her full effort. She's like her usual Richelle self, and we all know that something bad is going to happen. When Richelle is then watching the group dance, where, you know, they're all just dancing like robots and lifting Lily up in the air, she'd say to Angela that she's sitting out because she doesn't know the dance, but secretly Noah would have already sent her the video footage. Like, she does know the dance, she's watched it, she's learned it, but she starts to feel a bit of an ache in her hip, so she just says, oh, I don't know it yet, so I'm just going to sit and watch. Noah would confront Richelle when she's saying everybody's weaknesses, and when he walks in on her in the locker room, she'd be icing her hip, and like, he goes to shout at her and then he's like, what have you done? Like, that's clearly you haven't recovered from your injury, have you? Did you do the duet with Lily earlier? And he proper has a go at her because obviously he's protective and he wants the best for his friend, but also she's dancing on a troop. She's going to let the whole troop down if she's not taking care of herself. Richelle would insist she's fine and is stubborn and that it's just a wear and tear and an ache and a pain, and she'd like just tell Noah to grow up and leave her alone. She knows what she's doing. When Richelle walks in at the end of episode 3, Noah would be ignoring her, but she'd have a slight limp, like we'd see it, but it wouldn't be mentioned. So in episode 4, when Richelle does the duet with Lily again, she'd still be wincing, but she'd still be going out 100%. She'd say in a talking head maybe that if she doesn't go full out with Lily, then she's going to get suspicious and then the team will be in jeopardy because obviously they're sorting out the party thing in Studio A. At the very end of the episode, Richelle would say that she's going to the restroom after they have the cake fight. She'd probably say, oh, I'm going to go clean up or something, but she'd not come back. Oop. So in episode 5, Richelle is not in the episode until Piper is in the locker room, so she'd still walk in the same time that she does. She'd come in late, and because Richelle wore a lot of eyeliner in season 6, I don't remember for season 5, but her eyeliner would be kind of smudged and she wouldn't have a lot of it on, and it would just look like she'd been crying. Piper would reach out to her and be like, are you okay, Richelle? Like, you never usually look like that, usually you're so put together. And Richelle would maybe brush her off and just say like, yeah, I'm fine, it was just like the wind or something like that. And she goes to Studio A. When Jackie's doing the leg hold and they're both discussing everything, Richelle would just be sat on the floor watching Jackie do the leg hold and trying to like prove that she's better or just as good as Richelle. And Richelle would be like, oh, I don't need to get up and show you that I'm better than you, like you just know it already. So kind of blagging the fact that she physically wouldn't be able to do it because her hip is still really hurting. Richelle would also say in a talking heads that Jackie was the one who told her that Michelle and Emily were coming back as studio heads, and that honestly has made her nervous because she knows she's not fully recovered, but she doesn't want to tell them and put them in jeopardy. But also if she doesn't tell them, then that puts them in jeopardy, so she like doesn't know what to do. In the line placements, Richelle secretly would be reassured that she's put in the middle line instead of the front, so she'd put on an act like, oh, I wish I was on the front row too when Jackie starts kicking off, but secretly, because she knows she's not going to be able to go full out and be front and centre with everyone watching her, she's happy to just be middle line for now. In the locker room scene, infamous for when they slam the lockers and Summer walks in and everything, Richelle just wouldn't say anything at all, and she'd kind of give a sad smile to Summer, like she's sympathetic because she doesn't hate Summer, like she wants to be in the middle line, but she needs to keep up this facade. Also in Emily and Michelle's office, Richelle wouldn't say anything either. She'd just stay very quiet and sullen. When the three of them talk to Noah, and Noah says that it was him who told Emily and Michelle, it wouldn't be Jackie that hangs back, but Richelle, so Jackie would storm out. Noah would ask how she is, like genuinely, and Richelle would say she had a hospital appointment this morning, and that's why she was late, and they told her that she needs to really take it easy because she's going to reverse all the work that they've done in physio, and Noah says that that's what she has to do then, and she has to tell Emily and Michelle, but Richelle is still reluctant to do it because she knows that she can carry on, she's fine, she can just work through the injury, but Noah's like, literally stop, like no. So eventually Richelle agrees. She knows that Emily and Michelle know she's a good dancer. That's kind of a pro of the fact that they've come back. She doesn't need to prove herself, so she just agrees with Noah and then she'd leave. In episode 6, Richelle would be doing her exercises in Studio 1 and Jackie would walk in attempting to outdo her again. So maybe Richelle is just like in a lunge and Jackie doesn't even lower lunge and Richelle's just like, girl, I'm not even trying to fight with you. But Richelle wouldn't be able to help herself, so she does like, maybe she goes a bit lower in a lunge and she's like, this feels fine. Once again, like just because it feels fine doesn't mean that it is fine. And then Jackie would do like an illusion and Richelle would do about 3 illusions and she just forgets and then she like stops herself and she's like, okay, I need to control this. But ultimately she's already done it. The damage has been done. In the locker room, Richelle would be on her phone and Jackie would have the idea to get Summer to leave, so she'd be the one to tell her. Richelle would be like, oh, we don't really need to do that, like, we'll keep Summer where she is, like, she'll learn her place eventually, but Jackie would say, no, we'll do this, because remember, Noah doesn't believe in her either, so this would kind of give her the ammunition. In the rehearsal, when Richelle and Jackie are fighting, Richelle will be secretly relieved that Michelle tells them that they're kind of done wrong and they're not going to rehearse today without Summer. It would only be Richelle that can't keep up with Summer when Summer, Jackie and Richelle are all learning this new trio ready for the convention. And they'd both be very suspicious of Richelle because, you know, Richelle is one of the best dancers on age group, so it's very uncharacteristic of her. And in Shakes and Ladders, when the girls were all exhausted, it would only be Richelle who's genuinely exhausted and she'd say like, oh my god, my body hurts so much, and Summer and Jackie would be like, oh, me too, and stuff like that. They don't know that Rochelle's not faking it, so they're kind of just going with it. When they performed the trio to Emily and Michelle at the end of the episode, Emily and Michelle would question why Richelle isn't doing half of the stuff that they know she can do, and Emily and Michelle don't buy it whatsoever. Noah would also be watching the trio because he's the dance captain, so he'd just be overseeing it, and Noah knows why Richelle is marking it, but he hasn't said anything to Emily and Michelle because he told her to do it. He'd ask Emily if Richelle has spoken to her, and she'd be like, no, but you know, the girls have clearly sorted out their issues by themselves, so I don't need to worry about it. Because Emily thinks that he's referring to the whole like hating Summer thing and getting her kicked off the team and wanting to, but Noah's on about the snapping hip syndrome. So ultimately they still choose Summer, but then they ask Richelle to speak with them in the office. The scene in the office would then replace the rehearsal that they have with the boys, and Richelle would come clean that she was supposed to take it easy, she wasn't meant to be dancing so much because of her hip, and that she's on another short term of physio. Emily would be mortified. Michelle is like furious because the last time she got fired was because Emily didn't tell her about the injury, and now Rochelle's not told her about the injury, so she's like just angry basically. They'd say that they're taking it out of the trio and they're instead going to make it a quartet with Kingston and Henry being put into it, which obviously then gives more of a reason as to why they chose them. She's also ordered not to dance again until she gives them a doctor's note from the physio saying that she's cleared to dance again, and even when she does that, she's going to be taking it easy week by week. And Richelle, you know, she's reluctant but she agrees. She knows that she can't really get her way out of this. Emily would ask Noah if that's what he was talking about, and Michelle would be like, what are you talking about? What do you mean? And Noah would be like, yeah, she told me the other day. And Emily would be furious and tell him that that is not how a dance captain acts. And Noah would be mortified then because Noah's always been like one of the best dance captains. So the fact that Emily's now questioning whether he is a good dance captain would really hurt him. In episode 8, Richelle wouldn't be in her dance clothes and she'd say how now everyone knows about her injury. She'd get paired up with Ozzy for the compatibility thing, but Emily and Michelle tell her that she's going to help Ozzy create a solo and work on all of his moves that he wants to work on. So Richelle is happy with this. They'd still really bond over it and they'd appreciate each other a lot more, which is why it would hurt Ozzy so much when Elliot then comes in and kisses her. In episode 9, Richelle and Elliot wouldn't do a duet, they'd just be talking about their injury, and maybe Elliot's helping her with some of the exercises and he'd still ask her to go to prom. So prom would be exactly the same, but in episode 11, Amy would be stepping in for Summer, who has a family emergency, so it wouldn't be because Richelle and Ozzy are working with Leon Blackwood, I think it is, or they're just working on the duet, and the rest of the episode is the same. Episode 12, Richelle will be watching the small group perform at the convention and is really sad that she's not in it, but she's proud of them and knows that it was the best decision. Episode 13, Ozzy would still be sick, so Kingston stands in for him at the convention, and it's obviously just him because he was the best dance when all the duets happened and he did a solo, so it's fine. But I also don't think Richelle would say anything to Summer at the end about her being able to get the 5 points, because honestly that was just bullying. Like, I don't understand that anyone could excuse what Richelle did at the end of that episode because it was just so mean. Like, Summer really did try her best, and even if you think you could have done better, you don't say it. like not nastily anyway. In episode 14, Richelle would dance in the opening but do nothing crazy. It would be very, very basic, even if she just did like some arms and some turns and stuff that she can easily do, and she'd say in her talking heads over the top that she's getting better. Emily and Michelle have given her the all clear to start dancing again, but she has to take it easy, which is why she's doing such basic moves in that opening number. When Noah is told by Emily and Michelle that his age is going to bump the whole of age group up to the senior division, Richelle will be at the door like waiting to talk to Emily and Michelle. Maybe she says in the talking head that she has to like keep like updated with them on how she's feeling and everything. She'd hear that they're getting bumped up, and she knows that at her current level that she hasn't been stretching. She's definitely lost some kind of flexibility in the fact she hasn't been dancing. She won't be able to dance in the senior division. In episode 15, Richelle would ask if she can talk to Noah when he comes over to her and Davis, but it would be her, Davis and Piper. They'd be teaching Piper the choreo. No, Piper would be teaching both Richelle and Davis the choreo that they've missed, but Noah would say that he's busy at the moment so he can't. And when the red marble does get put in, everybody would think that it was Richelle who did it, the viewers at home and also age group, because they're like, well, there's only one person here who probably doesn't think they can dance in the senior division, and that's Richelle. And everyone would obviously start blaming her. They really don't move from where they stand on it. Richelle would be really, really upset. She'd insist that it wasn't her, and Jackie would use really, really harsh words with her, saying that they're not friends anymore, that she's a traitor. And Richelle would say in a talking head that no matter how defeated she feels, she would never kick Noah off the team. So she'd probably walk out really, really upset, and at the very end of the episode when Piper walks in on Noah packing his stuff up, she'd still admit to it being her who kicked him off the team. Noah would obviously realise it wasn't Richelle after all, but still she'd admit it to him and their scene would be the same. And at the end of the episode when Noah is brought back by Emily and Michelle, Jackie would be like, oh, good riddance, because Richelle isn't here, she hasn't turned up for the reveal. And Piper would say that there is no proof that Richelle did it, and then everyone is like, well, why are you saying that suddenly? And Piper's like, well, there just isn't. And Noah would say, yeah, like, go easy on Richelle, there's no proof still. And Jackie would get really suspicious because suddenly Piper's supporting Richelle. It's very, very odd. Richelle still wouldn't be in the episode 16, except it would be because she's upset, and we'd see Jackie say good riddance and she's happy she's not there. Episode 17, Summer would be very confident about going against Richelle because she thinks that Richelle still has no confidence in herself after her hip and also getting Noah kicked off the team, supposedly. When they discuss what they're going to do in the battle, Richelle would insist to her she was not the one to kick Noah off the team, but she's nearly back to normal and she is going to put all of her best tricks into this routine because she wants to be in featured routines. Before they battle, Noah would just double check that Richelle is okay. She'd be really snappy with him because there's a lot of pressure riding on this. She needs to prove that she's 100% okay again. She dances great in the battle, but she still doesn't go 100% because she's still a little bit nervous and she knows she's not allowed to go 100%. And she'd also say that she can't afford to risk it if they're now in the senior division. She can't afford to go back to square one if she messes something up. Noah would also say when he's revealing who is picked to be in the small group that he's not going to choose Richelle because he doesn't want to put that much pressure on her, and he'd rather her focus on the group dances that they need her in than the small dances that they can afford to put other people in. So he still chooses Summer. When she speaks to Richelle and Emily about not having any dances, she'd say that she's really working hard, and she gives them the letter from the physio fully signing her off. So the first letter that she gave them would have been to say that she can start dancing again, but this one is to say that she's fully signed off and she only needs to go back if there is any signs that she's kind of relapsing, I guess. They tell her not to worry about the senior division because they also think that Richelle was the one who put the red marble in, but Richelle would insist that she's not worried. Well, she is worried, but she's not that worried that she put the red marble in. And she's still asked to do the pas de deux with Noah because she knows that she's the best ballet dancer on A Troop and that she'd love to be able to reconnect with Noah because obviously they've had their ups and downs this season. The episode would be the same with the potential alternates auditioning and everything, but they'd be annoyed because they all think that they could potentially dance better than Richelle could at regionals, and they're more reliable than her as well because of her injury. Finn would say that surely it makes more sense for Richelle to be an alternate if she can't be in all the dances anyway, and then she can just be in the 10-person dance. But Noah would say that she is needed and that she is perfectly fine and she's not alternate material, like she doesn't have to be an alternate. Jackie would think it's suspicious that Noah's sticking up for somebody who wanted to kick him off the team, and she'd say that, and Noah would, he's not able to say it was Piper because he doesn't want to rat her out and have Piper be the victim of all of this. So he's kind of just like, he doesn't say anything, and that really upsets Richelle because she knows that he knows it was not her. I don't know whether Richelle would know if it's Piper or not. Maybe, maybe not, because Richelle and Piper sometimes have a bond. I don't think Richelle would reveal it to be Piper either. But yeah, it would just be really sad because everyone still hates Richelle. Noah can't even say it wasn't Richelle, but Piper would stand up and say that it was her who put the red marble in, and she's sorry to Richelle that she let her take the blame. And everyone would be like, oh, we made a mistake. This would be the reason that Jackie invites Richelle to play pictograms with her, and obviously Noah would be a part of that because he wants to redeem himself to Richelle as well, and then he can ask Henry because he knows how competitive the two girls are. Episode 19 is the same, but Noah would be edging around Richelle when they're dancing, but she'd tell him she's fine. Like, she wouldn't put herself forward for the pot of dirt if she didn't think she could do it. When Richelle doesn't get the audition card, but Noah does, she thinks it's because of the injury, so she tells Chloe, like, oh, I'm perfectly fine, like, I can have an audition too, and then Chloe would tell her about her lyrical eyebrows. She'd also say that she didn't even realise she had an injury, which reassures Richelle and kind of gives her the confidence boost that she needs. Episode 20, Richelle is stretching very well at the start of it, and Jackie would commend her on it, like saying, I'm glad that you're keeping to your exercises and stuff, and the episode would be the same. 21 would also be the same, with Richelle and Ozzy choreographing for B Troop. Episode 22 is the same, but when Noah compliments Richelle, he says that it's like she's never had an injury, and that would mean a lot to Richelle. Episode 23 would still be the escape room. In episode 24, and this is the last one that I've changed, Richelle would be very conscious of her hip because they're now at regionals. She'd be stretching it very, very well. She'd probably be reading the sheet religiously, like, oh my gosh, I only held this lunge for 9 seconds, I was meant to hold it for 10, and she'd go back into it again, and everyone would be trying to like calm her down. She also has emotion to think about, so there's a lot resting on this duet with Noah. When dancing, she'd be upset because Elliot broke up with her, Noah's leaving, but also it'd be happiness because she knows that she can dance the way that she used to be able to dance again. And she can also flip it and be sad because she knows that she didn't take her injury as seriously as she should have, and she's learnt a lot over the entire dance season. So we'd really see her emoting. It'd be very, very good. Yeah.
There's nothing keeping me from being the best dancer anymore.
So the rest of season 6 is then the same. There's only a couple more episodes in it, and season 7 will be the same too because Richelle is fully recovered from snapping hip syndrome. She's learnt she needs to take care of her injuries. She needs to be honest with herself, and that it's okay to like take time for yourself rather than always trying to be 100% in the best. So yeah, that is my version of what would have happened if Richelle still had signs of snapping hip syndrome in season 6. So yeah, make sure you subscribe, like, comment, all of that jazz. Thank you for watching. Bye!